I'm frequently asked a question: will it grow here? It's an honest enough question. It may have a simple answer. It's not always easy to say. Um, Sometimes the question I get is, somebody, say for instance, in the mainland or some other distant location, asking me about a certain tropical fruit that I'm raising here, as to whether they can raise it there or not. Heck if I know. I mean, really, they're tropical fruits. Most of what I raise here, the mainland, is for the most part not tropical. Okay, so it's, if I was to open a book and say, will it grow here? Of course, it'll usually say, no, it doesn't grow there. It won't be zoned for that area and so forth. But there's a lot of complication involved in this stuff, because some plants, even though they're tropical, are pretty hardy and will put up with some adverse conditions. Each and every one of us may happen to have a specific microclimate in our yard that's possible, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of variable factors. Now, I think one of the reasons that I'm here and people are asking me that question is because I never asked that question. I just plant stuff, and if it grows, it grows. And that's how I find out whether something will grow for me here or not. That's one reason I advocate the growing of fruit from seeds, for instance. Seeds are really cheap. And if you want to find out whether that thing will grow there or not, well, go ahead and plant some seeds, see what happens. If it works out, well, then go ahead and invest in 100 grafted trees or some such thing to put in there. But, the seeds are what are used to figure out cheaply whether or not a certain plant will grow there or not. When it comes to information about nursery and horticulture, that information is very, very local. Well, if you get somebody on the East Coast doing a garden column and they publish that same garden column in Los Angeles in the newspaper, that garden column is probably 50% off the mark. It doesn't fit because the local conditions wherever you go alter, they vary somewhat. And so local information is really where it's at. I'm not local. I am here in Hawaii, but even in Hawaii, I get this question. And it was just yesterday. Just yesterday, I had a guy over here who's a local guy. He's got a YouTube channel, too. And he was asking me about my sweet citrus. That I'm up here at 1,600 feet, and I am aware that the coconut telegraph here on the island, people have been saying, oh, no, you can't grow sweet citrus up that high on Hawaii, Well, nobody told me this. And even if they had, I'd have gone, no, baloney. Because I'm well aware you can grow sweet citrus in San Francisco, for instance. And trust me, there is no place anywhere near right around here that has weather quite as nasty and cold as San Francisco's. And yet there are certain oranges, Trevita, for instance. I believe Skaggs Bonanza is another that will grow and fruit, in San Francisco. And so considering that I knew that fact before I even came here to Hawaii, I think most of the guys, talking about you can't grow sweet citrus up at the higher elevations in Hawaii, they just really don't know what they're talking about. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of disinformation. I try to be good information here on the web, but I can't answer all these questions. Some of this stuff you really got to find out for yourself. That's how I find it out. That's why I know what's right, what's real, what's not real, and so forth, is because I don't take a whole lot of information from other people. When I'm looking for stuff, I will go to the University of Hawaii, I'll look at the University of California, University of Florida, and so on. I will go to agricultural university websites and do some research on subjects at times. But the only way you ever find out for sure whether something will grow where you're at or not is you just go right ahead and plant that thing. Don't be afraid of it. It kind of disturbs me sometimes is that I'm well aware that, you know, plants aren't that expensive, and what are people worried about? It's like, oh, the end of the world, I planted, it's going to die, oh my God, you know. I'm not sure what that's all about. That's what plants are for. To find out. They are teachers. The plants will let you know more than you would ever discover on your own without their help. You know, put the plant out there in the field and see what happens to it. Yeah, so, you know, as far as questions about will my abius grow in Los Angeles, you know. So I will often deflect these questions when I get them to local sourcing for people. For instance, you live in California, well, the excellent resource, California Rare Fruit Growers. I refer to it as CRFG. If you ever see it come up in an email, I'm not going to write out California Rare Fruit Growers. Yeah, so CRFG is a really great citizens group of people that grow all kinds of exotic and unusual fruiting plants in the state of California. There's a similar organization, I know, for instance, in Arizona, too. And so these folks, they got all the knowledge as far as what happens locally, you know, in the city of Phoenix or in Malibu or wherever you may happen to be. I was familiar with the Santa Clara chapter of CRFG, and well, those folks have tried growing all kinds of things there, and they can probably even tell you where there is a tree fruiting in the area and so forth. You know, so local knowledge. Local knowledge is the best you can get. It's also oftentimes the worst you can get because you do have, I don't know, local mindset, I guess you call it, which is not knowledge. You know, local opinion or something on this order. You know, it's, for sure, flat out. Anybody here on the island, if somebody is telling you you can't grow sweet citrus at 1,600 feet, you just turn around and thumb your nose at the guy and tell him, go get a life, because, no, that's not true. We have all kinds of sweet citrus here on this farm. And I would suspect there are varieties of sweet citrus that I'm pretty confident I could raise to at least 4,000 feet on this island. Yeah, yet there's a lot of myth around here that can't be done. I don't know where it came from, how it happened, or why, but it did happen. Now, I would say there in the hotter zones on the island, it's a pretty good chance that it's easier to grow a good-tasting Valencia orange, for instance. But, you know, like a Wari Satsuma mandarin, this is a Japanese tree that does not require hardly any heat at all to be able to produce a nice sweet piece of fruit. And so it will grow over a large area of this island. You know, questions about whether tropicals will grow on the mainland. Again, you know, the answer, of course, straight out is no, of course not. Most of the tropical seeds I have here, if planted in the mainland, the vast majority of them are going to drop dead in most places. Now, it's not true for every plant that's tropical, nor for every location. You know, like I said, we have the microclimate factor, where certain spots, even though they might be in zone 9, have a spot in your yard because of the way it's placed that acts more like zone 10. You know, this happens. Best way to find that out is right now it's December in the northern hemisphere. It's winter time. Today is the first day of winter. If you want to find out where the cold and the warm spots are in the yard, get up early some morning. Go on out there about 6:30 and walk around the backyard. You're going to find some places are crunchy with ice and other places are not. I know my yard in Fremont, California was just that way, and those places were consistent. That it would freeze here, but it doesn't freeze there. And there's environmental factors that cause that to happen. It's, you know, and that's some kind of mystery. Generally speaking, overhanging eaves, overhanging large trees prevent frost from forming. Trees themselves will often convect air up the canopy of the tree and will keep frost from settling underneath. Right near the south wall of a house with an overhanging eave, and especially if the wall is masonry, that gathers a lot of heat during the daytime, and it's probably less frost there on a cold morning and so on. But, it goes right back to the only person that can ever really tell you whether that will grow for you or not is you. You have to try it, because most of the stuff that people are asking me questions about, this stuff isn't in the books. It's not knowledge that's known. The idea of trying to raise tropical fruits in the United States of America, for instance, well, people in Florida have done that for a long time. They've done it here in Hawaii, but in other locations in the country, this is not something that's ever been experimented with. And so, there isn't any data out there. And so each and every one of you are the data collection centers. You try things, and you see what you can do with it, And don't try it just once, and don't try just one thing, Try a group of different plants that you're interested in, because maybe one of them will actually go. Maybe the rest won't. This is how I discover things about plants. I plant them. Don't be afraid to plant them, to answer the question for yourself, will it grow here? Now, again, most people trying to raise tropical plants in a temperate climate, you're going to have to go to some work to get that to happen. It isn't going to be forthcoming on its own that you're going to put a mango tree in your front yard and in San Francisco and it's just going to thrive. No, I don't think it will. Will probably slowly waste away and die. But there are things that gardeners can do. There's protection from cold. A tropical plant can be festooned with Christmas tree lights during the winter with a floating row cover put over the top of it that will maybe even take it down 10 degrees below the range where it might have been damaged. There are all sorts of things. So the question really isn't, does it grow here? The question is, can you get it to grow where you live? It's really going to be up to you. The plants themselves, like I said, if you just put out in the environment, chances are most of the stuff's going to drop dead. But if you want to try to push the envelope on weather and try to do things that most people don't do, well, you'll find a way. I've seen some amazing things happen, and also the data about plants, that data about what will work and what won't work, that data is accumulated by the people that do the planting. It's not really found by the people that write the books most of the time. Those people are seeking data and they're finding pieces of information and they're using it in these texts that they write about plants. But it's the gardeners out there that do the experimenting that are the ones that will actually conclude whether it will or will not happen. So when it comes to will it grow here? I don't know, give it a try. Don't be afraid. Be brave. You got nothing to lose but a few dollars, Really. It's most of the time, if you're pretty rational about what you're trying to do, and you're a good gardener, you'll make it happen. Somehow or another, you'll make it happen. Now, on the other hand, I do believe that some crops are much more well adapted to some environments than other crops are. And so let's say, for instance, guava is one example that I went through a whole thing of guavas in California for years. And, some varieties of the plant did pretty darn well for me in Fremont, especially the subtropical guavas, like the strawberry or the lemon strawberry, the Cydium cattleyanuum litorale. Now these are tougher plants. They are not tropical guavas. Now here in Hawaii, they're a nasty weed. Oh God, we don't even want to see those things. But in California, they aren't. And in California, it's really a pretty good fruit. I used to draw them in landscape plans and so on. And those do work, but yet the regular tropical guavas, like you find an ocean spray juice or something on that order, with the perfume guavas, they're a little riskier. They're pretty tough plants, and they can be grown in the Bay Area, California, for sure. But there's shortcomings. The plants tended to want to bear most of the fruit during the wintertime. And the fruit that ripened during the winter was really quite inferior. It would often be damaged by the winter, or the weather wasn't that good for getting sugar in it or something or another. The few pieces of fruit I could get off the bushes that came down during the summer, they could be so good. Oh my goodness. They were delicious, but it was a minor percentage of what the plant produced. And so I donated all my guava collection to Quarry Lakes. And I believe the last I was over there are signs that say Merrill's pink, Merrill's white, and so on. Because despite the fact that I could do it, I was successful. The fruit quality wasn't worth it. Certain fruits are well adapted to some climates and not to others. You can grow guavas in Fremont, California, but they're really not very good, and it's not worth doing, from my opinion. Yet, on the other hand, apples, we had so many fabulous varieties of apples that just thrived in the Bay Area, and they were wonderful. Now, nothing, I guess not very exciting for most people. The whole thing now is they want to grow tropical fruits, But when you have a fruit that is well adapted in the climate where you're at, that's the stuff, because it's going to reach perfection. No matter how hard you work at some of these things or how much you want it to happen, getting the quality out of plants that are very marginal in a climate is a hard thing to do. Chances are there's a way around that too. I wasn't interested enough with my guavas, for instance, to say start painting the fences white behind them for more reflected light, and I never did shelter them during the winter. And by and large, if I have to put too much effort into a plant just to get the silly thing to survive somewhere, that's compost heap material. I didn't mess with it. Because there's 2,000 more plants waiting in the wings that just dying for that space in the field that are going to really, really grow well and produce something worth having. So that's kind of the way I see it. But that isn't the way everybody sees it. And some people are destined that they're going to get mangoes to grow in the Bay Area, and can and probably do. I don't know for how long, until the next big freeze, I guess. But, in the meantime, you got the thing there. But, will it grow? I don't know. Give it a try. And, if you do ask questions of people, whether it be me, and I'm not telling people, don't ask me, go ahead. But I'm just saying, you might not get the answer you expected to get. Because the real truthful answer, in most cases, is going to be, it doesn't. But again, the question is, do you think I can? Well, I don't know. How good of a gardener are you? You seem like the kind of person, maybe. On the other hand, if you're asking that question, you're probably already off on the wrong foot. You want to ask the question of yourself. Can I grow it here? That's the question. Can I grow it here? And so that's up to you. So, aloha. Happy gardening, and y'all hang loose for the holidays.